Sweet. Just gonna give people a minute to come back. Much better. Great. Glad to hear it. Hi. Okay. Cool. So I want to get started. I'm aware people might have like laughed, but that's probably because I took forever to set up the stream. Sorry about that. Okay. Hi. So I'm just gonna get started because it's 10 minutes late. Cool. So I'm Aaron Trailer. I run our VGC. Let me know if you can't hear me talking, by the way. Um, so great. Buffering gone. Yes. Cool. So I run the subreddit. I've been playing VGC for 9 years. I am clearly extremely improficient at making Twitch streams. So awesome. Audio is working. Cool. So yeah, this is my idea for a workshop to get people on the Reddit skills for battling in Series 6 and best of 3 tournaments. So I'm just going to get right into it because, yeah. Cool. So this is like a seminar almost. I'm not really trying like this part is a presentation, but it comes with a discussion and small groups component that I would very much like if people could take part in because I think it'll be more useful. So if you're attending that, check in at the check-in channel on our Discord, and the questions from the stream will be answered from the Discord as well. So this is sort of the schedule of what's going to happen. First, I'm going to talk about some of the top teams for this season. Then we're going to go into strategies for best of 3 and do a quick question and answers. And then for the second half, we're going to move to the Discord, and you're going to be assigned a small group, and you will do a team review in a small group. So before I get started, I just want to plug, this is sort of like the point of the workshop, is to get you the skills that you feel so that you feel confident and comfortable attending this tournament that we're throwing over the weekend. It's called our circuit finale. So I hope yes, okay, the slide switch. I was just checking my my stream. So yeah, so this is a standard best of 3 tournament with a bunch of good players competing in it. And it should be a great fit to get some best of 3 battle experience. There's a ton of prize money. The amount of prize money for how many people there are is actually kind of obscene. And it's season 6, best of 3. Anyone can join. It's like $6 to enter. Yeah. So, like, why do a workshop? Why not just throw up like a YouTube video? And so this is like. So when I started VGC, it was actually 10 years ago, like right now, pretty much. I wanted to, like, I don't know, I got into VGC because I watched Ray win on some like crappy 2010 phone screen. And I was like, wow, that's cool, and I want to do it. But right now, like, I feel like how people get involved in VGC is different from how I got involved in VGC. When I started, I made a couple friends, and we like worked together, and like those friends ended up being people who would like make it really far in VGC. We didn't really have anyone like teaching us, and now it's different. Now there's Wolf. Now there are people who you can pay to coach you. But I feel like the most important part of VGC is working with people, and so I want to create an environment that would foster that. And so I'm hoping that people get out of this, quality feedback from other people and make friends and have a great time. And also, I want people to feel confident because best of 3 is something that, if you can play on the ladder, you can play in a best of 3. So to start off, I'm just going to talk about the top teams that are in season 6. Now, I haven't. This is something that I do whenever I'm going to a tournament. I make what I call a hit list. which is mostly teams that I expect to face with high probability. So this is sort of like my understanding of the metagame. And usually I just throw in like whatever I see that I like, but what I want you to understand is that this is really context dependent, okay? So when you're preparing for a large tournament, you have to be aware of who's going to go to that tournament. So if I were going to a small local tournament, I live in New England and we have these awesome small local tournaments, I would be aware of who's going to show up to that. Because Pokemon teams are only, like, they only really matter against other Pokemon teams. So if everyone at my local, hated Goodra, I wouldn't be afraid of playing Goodra at that tournament. Um, for the RVGC circuit finale tournament, I wouldn't like people there are going to be of varying different skill levels. So you might see opponents who run really good stuff. You might see people who run, um, you know, just crazy things like Wolf's Jolteon team or the Decidueye team. But it's about the teams that you expect to face with high probability. Because if you prepare for a team and then you face it, um, then that preparation was good preparation. So I'm going to start the video with some of these. The first team that I want to talk about is the Porygon Z archetype. And so when I talk about one of these teams, I'm going to talk about it from a very high level. Although when you go through these slides at home, you can see rental codes and pastes to teams that you can download. You can actually play in our tournament with a rental code. So these are valuable. Hang on to them. So what is the goal of a Porygon Z team? Porygon Z, you want to you want to overwhelm your opponent with damage. So what this person is going to try and do is they are going to usually Dynamax a Porygon Z, usually lead it maybe with Clefairy, maybe with something else, and just try and take out as many Pokemon while that Dynamax is happening. And then once they're done with that, they're going to like just bring in their hyper offensive. Usually they have a choice item, their hyper offensive Pokemon, and clean it on up. So that's their strategy. And to sort of beat these teams, it's pretty challenging because of Porygon's damage output. But here's what you can do: you can stall the Dynamax. So if you think Porygon is going to be using a whole bunch of normal moves, Steel type Pokemon are great. Putting Porygon Z to sleep is great. Dropping Porygon Z's special attack is great. Furthermore, getting your own speed control and then doing any of those things, once that Dynamax is over, Porygon Z is really, its defenses aren't that great. And finally, redirecting Porygon's attacks can allow you to deal a bunch of damage on your own. So we have some rentals. I'm going through these kind of quickly because I just want like a higher level idea of like, this is how I approach tournaments. Dracazole is actually, it's really similar to Porygon Z in the sort of things that enable Dracazole. They take advantage of Dracazole's offensive power when it's Dynamax because it can't miss moves due to its hustle. It can't miss moves because max moves don't miss, but its hustle ability boosts the attack power. But the difference from Porygon Z is that Dracazole actually has more sticking power. Its defensive stats and typing are a little bit better. Some people will play it with Assault Vest. And its max moves actually boosts its defenses. So you can max Quake and do like take out an Arcanine and get a special defense boost. And so these teams can play a little bit more dynamically. So the counters to Dracazole teams, again, if you stall out the Dynamax, which is pretty hard, but you can do it with, fairy types are great, switching in attacks, burns, intimidates. If you get that Dracazole out of its Dynamax, all of a sudden it's going to miss its moves 20% of the time. That's going to cause the opponent to have to play differently. And it also functions exactly like a Porygon Z team. The Pokemon are frail outside of like Clefairy, right? They're trying to knock out your Pokemon. So if you manage to get some sort of speed control, it will be really challenging for Dracazole's frail partners to take advantage of your team. So I'm going to scroll down, presuming my computer lets me. Can I do this? Great. those are some. Okay, next one. Beat up and steam engine combination. So this team kind of operates at only two speeds. The Pokemon in front of you are not all one team. This is just like the kind of Pokemon that you might see on one of these teams. Beat up and steam engine teams use Weavile or Sneasel to do one of two things. You can boost Colossal with Surf, or you can boost one of the Swords of Justice, also called Ponies, with your beat up move. And so their goals are to, look at the opponent's team, figure out which of these are going to be more challenging, and then use that to secure victory. So like the issue with these sorts of teams is like if you win a game in best of three, which one are they going to bring next? So you don't want to like have to deal with that. You want to leave that can deal with Weevil or Sneasel, and then either Colossal or one of its strong fighting type partners. And then once they've done their damage with the Dynamax, they try and finish it off with some complementary bulky offense to secure their victory. So how to get around these? You might say Amoonguss, to which that's not always going to be helpful because sometimes Weavile or Sneasel has safety goggles, and Surf actually goes around that. So Clefairy is another great answer, but Trick Room is going to be sort of the main way to get around this. Once these Pokemon, except for Terrakion, are out of Dynamax, they are a little less effective. Colossal is pretty much restricted to clicking Heat Wave. Cobalion has a really bad attack stat, so you really don't want it out of max with like a bunch of boosts. And once again, like a Haze just means this is over. Moving on. Comfey and Goodra. So it was actually pretty hard for me to find like a paste or a rental code for this team. But Comfey, what it does is it uses its healing moves to boost with a small damaging move and a weakness policy its partner. And these Pokemon take advantage of their defensive typing and their offensive coverage. So Goodra is a special defense tank, especially when it maxes, it doubles its HP, coming at you with a Assault Vest or a weakness policy, and the floral healing from Comfey can be really hard to take down. Same for Lapras, especially because it sets up Aurora Veil. The thing is about these teams is that first off, Comfey itself isn't going to do much. I mean, like it can kind of wiggle around with like Protect and a ally switch, and maybe they set up Trick Room instead of going for like a weakness policy set up on turn one. But it really can't do very much. And furthermore, Goodra and Lapras, once they're out of Dynamax, or if they don't get that boost from Comfey, you can't follow me Comfey, so be careful there. If they don't get that boost, maybe Fake Out or something, they don't do very much damage. And you can just repeatedly target down the partner until Comfey is, until Goodra is the last thing on the field, and then it doesn't do very much damage. So the next archetype I want to talk about is Gigantamax Lapras. It's sort of like the offensive variants. So teams that center around Gmax Lapras really want to enable it to deal damage, but that Gmax Resonance is going to let the rest of your offensive partners like think the same things as like Porygon, right? You want Urshifu, you want Dracovish, Terrakion, Sylveon. The Aurora Veil is going to protect them, so it's not so bad that they're that frail. Okay, so dealing with these Pokemon. Lapras has a strong damage output, especially, if it's hitting super effective with a Life Orb. But if you're just taking the attacks neutrally, it's not that bad. Especially if you can drop the special attack, use Protects. Offensive Lapras is actually pretty inconsistent outside of Dynamax. It wants to because you want to be as strong as possible in Dynamax, right? So you use moves that raise the base power of max moves like Blizzard and Thunder, and you once you get past this Aurora Veil, which is actually pretty easy because it's 5 turns, everything is kind of defenseless. So Lapras plays differently depending on the team's goals. So if you're playing a sort of defensive Max Lapras team, you're going to give your Lapras Light Clay, maybe Weakness Policy, but usually Light Clay. And that 8 turns is a long time in a VGC game. And that really lets you stall the game out with Dusclops and Ferrothorn and sort of win a war of attrition. So Iron Defense Ferrothorn behind Aurora Veil, you're pretty much going to have to crit that or get pretty lucky to get out of that. So that's sort of like how that team's going to try and play. But to beat that, Light Clay Lapras doesn't do very much damage on its own. So you can take advantage of that by setting up on your own, targeting down the partner repeatedly. And you want to always keep in the back of the mind that they're going to try and set up and win in the end game with their setup Pokemon. So like plan for like a long haul. The last one I want to talk about is sort of like a mid-speed. So, it doesn't have Talon Flame, so it's not Tailwinding. It doesn't have Dusclops, maybe, so it's not super focused on Trick Room, but like a Fire, Water, Grass core, which is sort of like a classic VGC archetype. So you have Arcanine and Rotom Wash or Primarina, and then Amoonguss. And these Pokemon complement each other. They do different things and they balance really well. So if you partner them with a strong offensive Pokemon that sort of like commands the board, like Braviary or Durant, you can sort of like switch around and you lead well, and then you can take attacks, stall out their Dynamax, and then you can. So what you can do with these teams is like you're like, okay, like I know that if I take out their water Pokemon, my Arcanine is super great against them. You use a Dynamax move to do that, and now you have this huge advantage with switching, and it really limits your opponent's options. So to beat this sort of team, you can boost through the drops, like while they're like sitting there like a monkey switching their Pokemon around. You can like if you have a Rotom Wash with Nasty Plot and Safety Goggles, you can click Nasty Plot. Not much they can do about that. And also you can predict switches. So teams with these like switch around a bunch compositions, you tend to get in a groove playing these sorts of things, and opponents can really capitalize on that. So you have to both watch out when you're playing against one of these, and like when you are playing one of these, that the switches don't like control the game, if that makes sense. So that's sort of the introduction to the archetypes that I think are really essential to Season 6. And we can talk about those later in chat, but I really want to focus on the small group discussion. So questions are going to come after this segment, which is best of 3 tips. So here are some tips for best of 3. Best of 3 can be like really imposing, right? Like it's 3 times as long at the worst as like one game, and it's so easy to get best of 1 ladder practice. Like that's something that you come to this game and that's all you get, and then you go to your first tournament and you're like, I don't want to play you 2 more times. And they're actually pretty similar because they're both Pokemon. And you're just doing the same thing in best of 3 that you're doing in best of 1, but the difference is that your opponent reacts to the previous games. And so what I mean by that is that you are just continuously compounding the information that you get about your opponent. So like in a small part, this is about their team, right? This is about their like the Pokemon that they have. This is about the items that they have, like, oh no, you had a Focus Sash, like that surprised me. But really this is about understanding your opponent and what they want to do. So like, for example, right, like you play, like let's say you play one of those defensive Lapras teams I was talking about, and like it goes exactly how I described, right? Like they lead their Lapras, like with Dusclops, right? And they get that Aurora Veil up, and at the end of the game, their Ferrothorn has +6 defense, and it's just one-shot all of your Pokemon. Okay, where do we go from there, right? Okay, like that happened, you process that, your opponent processes that, and then you move on to the next game. And so this can sort of play out in a couple of different ways. So let's say you win the first game. How's your opponent gonna react to that? because all of Pokemon is about like, this theory of mind stuff. Like, how is your opponent reacting to what you're doing? And most people will switch up their strategy after losing. So like let's say you blow out like that Lapras team tries to get that Ferrothorn up in the end game, and you are not having that. Like you brick break the Lapras screen, and then you taunt the Ferrothorn, and you win 4-0. They're probably not going to try that again. So again, it's like it's about in a way it's about being empathetic, right? It's about keeping track of what you think your opponent is reacting to this game. And like this is something that you're going to get with experience. But that's sort of like the main idea. And not only that, but opponents will keep tabs on which Pokemon you bring to the battle and which two that you leave behind, right? Because you're bringing six and only picking four. So you could like oh no, like Arcanine's really good against my team, but they didn't bring it. Like I guess I don't have to worry about it now. Versus like okay, they didn't bring like Porygon Z to that match, and I beat them really well, so they're probably going to beat it, like bring it in the next time. Um, Again, these are things that like seem kind of daunting, but you'll pick up really quickly with experience. And it's really good to build these sorts of skills over a long tournament. Cool. Let's say you lost the game. How is your opponent going to react to that? It's a little bit tougher because like thinking like they have that like psychological advantage over you, and they have something that ended up working. It could have been really hacksy. You could have gotten really unlucky. It's working for like it worked. They got a win. So they could keep the same game plan or a similar game plan and be like, okay, like this works, you beat it. I'll do this against people all the time. Like I beat you 4-0. Like I don't need to do anything differently. Um, they could also think about how you're going to react to that victory. So like, let's say I use my Lapras and my Ferrothorn and you leave your Arcanine at home and I beat you with Ferrothorn. Okay, Ferrothorn might be coming next game. Um, and they could come up with a new way to beat you. So it's like, oh, like I thought the first time that this game, like that they were going to go for this game plan, so I picked this one. But actually, I think this one is a little bit smarter. Um, so uh, they're like just keeping these things in mind. It's not anything to get worried about, especially losing a game can be pretty worrying. But just keep in mind that your opponent is always reacting to what you're doing. So then just finally, these are like my tips. That was sort of like descriptive, I guess. So winning the first game is pretty important. So from those tips, like there's a lot of like your opponent can do a lot of mean things at team preview if you don't win. The pressure is on you, right? So like for example, like this is something that I like to do quite a bit is like if your team has like a couple of like very strong leads it could do. Like let's say you could lead Sneasel and Colossal or Sneasel and Terrakion. Or like I don't know, like Talonflame and Porygon Z or Clefairy and Porygon Z. And you win with one of those. Your opponent now has to be like, okay, well I was worried about both of these things, but they have to pick one. Like they have to bring one. And so the pressure is on them to sort of like guess what you're going to do. Again, that's a lot of like mental momentum, mental pressure. So you never want to like lose game one to figure out like, oh, like I learned so much about their team. You want to gain that psychological advantage. Um, so luck still happens in best of three. On the ladder you can get super unlucky. Did a strategy work? You got unlucky and lost. Like you could try it again in best of three. This is something that I like to do. I like to repeat. This is like not something I would recommend, but like I like to repeat something if I get unlucky. If it's still a good game plan, because I'm gonna win that most of the time, right? Like if I miss my 95% move, I'm gonna do that again. In 19 out of 20 games, I'm still gonna win that, and then I can take the best of three. I'd just like to reiterate that overall, it's the same sort of thing going on as best of one. You're making a game plan using the advantages of your Pokemon. It's just your opponent has more time to think about what you've done, so you need to. The practice in best of three is going to be like, how is my opponent reacting to these games? Like, what do they think? What strategies do they try? Do they switch it up? Cool. So I'm going to take a couple questions now. If people have questions, um, I'm like trying to check both Twitch and the Discord chat, but if there aren't that many questions about what I said, you can DM me your question. You can post it in the chat. We can just get right into the group work. But I wanted to start the group work with this so that it can be grounded in this sort of thought process. Okay. I don't think. Okay. Great question. So when taking notes in what do you prioritize in this short time frame of a battle? Um, so okay, I take minimal notes. So my opinion is that I mean you can take notes for whatever reason, but my opinion is that you never want the note taking to get in the way of the gameplay. You never want to be focusing on your notes. And I'm a little ADD, and when you focus on the gameplay, you'll either forget to write notes, or if you focus on the notes, you'll forget something about the gameplay. Um, so what I do is I write down which Pokemon they brought and which Pokemon I brought in the front and the back, like lead and in the back. Um, and then when picking my Pokemon for the next game, I'll look back at that. Because, like I said, it's all about those game plans. The other thing I'll do is I'll write down like speed tiers or something that surprised me, but generally I remember the things that surprised me. So really, I can show you my notes from tournaments. They look like they're like a little 2x2 grid, and it says Pokemon name, Pokemon name, Pokemon name, Pokemon name, and like the front and the back for all three games, and that's all I write down. But if you want, like, if taking notes helps you remember, you can you can you can take as many notes as you'd like. That's just the approach that I recommend. Many people take much more detailed notes. Okay. Disco asks, for a team like Porygon Z, Clefairy with fast sweepers in the back, what do you do when you knock out Porygon Z and suddenly the Pokemon they bring out is faster than the ones you have and is very strong? That's a great question. This is something that I struggled to put into words, and I thought about for a while. This is a concept called, momentum, is how players will talk about this. So momentum is when a Pokemon hits the field and all of a sudden you have to react to it. For example, like she said, I take out Porygon, and then all of a sudden, like Bandit or Shifu is coming in. So what do you do when you knock out Porygon Z and suddenly what they bring out is faster? So in general, it's about thinking about like if this turn goes the way I want it, what's going to happen next turn? Like once you have the experience, playing games and sort of like seeing the future, you're going to be able to do this sort of thing more frequently. Just keep in the back of your mind that when a Pokemon gets knocked out, the next Pokemon comes in. For Porygon Z in particular, Clefairy actually gets a lot of people this way. Like I've lost a ton of games to this. I just like, oh man, like I got the Porygon Z, and oh no, Clefairy is what ends up winning the game. So I'd actually recommend like just taking out the Clefairy as fast as possible. Okay, I'm going to answer these questions. I'm going to answer like 2 or 3 more. You can keep them coming, but then we're going to switch to the small group work, and I can answer those later. Okay, how do you deal with losing a game due to an RNG element like sleep or something missing? Great question. Luck happens. This is the game we play. In a best of 3, you really just have to move on. Like you can process that whenever you need. This is a lot more about you than it is about me and what I have to say. You need to do whatever it takes mentally, emotionally to get past that. And like I kind of like that in a way because Pokemon is about like learning more about yourself and like discovering like how you react when you're emotional and like coming up with strategies for like dealing with that. And so that's what I would recommend. Um, yeah. How do you keep a positive mentality when playing against a well-known or good player? That's a great question because in this tournament you might play some well-known or good, like well-known players, good players. You might play them. Okay, I think Pokemon is a unique sport, esport, whatever you want to call it, competition because unlike chess, unlike like I don't know, like tennis. I don't know that many sports. I do fencing, where it's really cut and dry. Um, there's it's really hard to play Pokemon. It's really hard to play Pokemon. It's hard for the best players to play Pokemon, and there's an element of luck. Anyone can beat anyone. Um, so I would remember those things. Anyone can beat anyone in a game of Pokemon, and um, you like you should just remember that your opponent is going to be good at reacting to what you do. So you should switch it up, Um, like don't get too static. Try weird things. What do you have to lose? I love to try weird things against good opponents. Worst case you learn something about your team. um, cool. What's a good way to deal with pressure when battling? Again, this is similar to my answer about luck. This is about you and the your journey as a person. But for me, what do I do? I drink a lot of water. That's but pressure, pressure, pressure. Yeah, don't it's just like any mentality stuff. Take deep breaths. If you're at home, take a step away, like walk around, do a stretch, whatever you need to do mentally to get the pressure off of you. I'm gonna enter. I'm going to answer like one or two more here, and then I'm going to go into chat and answer these. Um, so, leads for Series 6. So, leads are all about experience and like what works. Um, if you have a guide that's like, you should use this lead, you can follow it. If there's a couple of Pokemon that like you think pair well together, you can try it. Um, but in general, right, team preview is all about having a game plan, and that's what I put in these slides. Each of these archetypes comes with a game plan for that team. Porygon Z, you're going to lead with Porygon Z, and then you're going to do a bunch of damage with it, and then you're going to clean up with the Pokemon at the back. So you come up with a game plan, your opponent comes up with a game plan. So if when you're facing a team with 6 solid pairable Pokemon, think about your opponent's game plan. When I do team preview, I'm like, okay, what do they have that they're definitely going to try? Like, what is my team weak to? Like, I try and look at myself, if that's clear. Like, what are my Pokemon weak to? Um, and then that gives me more of an idea. Like, oh, like that usually helps me find like, oh, like they could pair any of their Pokemon together well. Um, this is how I'm going to deal with that. Like, oh no, like if they leave if they lead like Braviary and Amoonguss, like I really can't do anything about that. Um, I need to like pick this as like a worst case scenario that happens, and like I have an out. Again, it's about experience and trying things out. Trial and error. What worked, what didn't. Okay. Um, great. So there are a bunch of questions still, I think. Um, So I am going to do. I'm going to start the small group instructions. So if you haven't yet, I hope most of you were able to. You should check in the hashtag check-in channel. Jake and Zach are helping out by assigning roles. And so what's happening is each person is getting a private chat room. Sorry, like each group of 4 people is getting like a private chat room. It's you guys and mods, just making sure everything is safe. And it comes with a number and a Pokemon name. I had fun giving out the Pokemon names. And you're gonna share your teams and get feedback and advice and give people feedback and advice. You can share a full team. You can share a partial team. You can share like an idea you had. And you're gonna take a few minutes working through it as a group. And we'll sort of like flit around and make sure everything's going well. And I'll announce when to switch it up. At the end of the night, I'm not going to close the chat rooms. I'll leave them around for a while. So if you hit it off with your group mates, you guys can keep asking each other for advice. Um, you're not obligated to. Yeah. So at the end of the day, be kind, be respectful, and be constructive. And there are instructions. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in. I'm going to answer questions and hop in the Discord. Peace. Thanks.